This week on Cageside Seats, the podcast, we're talking the Women's Royal Rumble, Big E's very lackluster title reign, and AEW's social media flubs.
Welcome to Cageside Seats, the podcast. We don't have a good name, but we do have great opinions. I'm your host, Stella Cheeks, and with me is my co-host, Marcus Benjamin.
What up, people? Yes, terrible name, fantastic opinions. Prepare for all of them on this wild ride that we call the podcast.
We had a whole Cageside office brainstorm for like a whole day, and we could not come up with a better name than Cageside Seats, the podcast, because there are a million wrestling podcasts and all of the good puns are taken.
And also, we're not that creative. So despite what you think about people who write about things on the internet.
Come on, you can't tell our listeners on the first episode that we're not creative. We got to draw them in. And
then let them figure it out for themselves. You're right. As Vince McMahon would say, I guarantee you're going to love it.
It's our first podcast. It will be a weekly podcast coming out every Friday, unless, there's a hurricane that happens and that we can't sign with WWE.
Or a snowstorm. Yeah, like knocked my, we had a snowstorm last week.
Yeah, we're both in very snowy places. Well, thankfully, we have this podcast. So if your power gets knocked out or you can't watch any wrestling, you can bundle up in your blanket and light your candles and listen to the dulcet tones of our voices.
That's true. That is true. Since this is our very first podcast, we want to let you get to know a little bit about who we are, why we're wrestling fans. What we want to earn that street cred. So it's up to you whether or not we meet your wrestling journalism standards. We got to create a baseline for you, and then you determine. Let's start with you, Miss Stella. Who are you, and why wrestling?
Why wrestling? Okay, well, I'm Stella Cheeks. I have been a member of the Cageside staff for many years. I genuinely don't even know how many years at this point. I run the social media, and then I write stuff here and there. I used to host, I still host a podcast called Not Your Demographic. It used to be a women's wrestling podcast. Now we mostly talk about books and our feelings. We don't really talk about wrestling anymore. So this is my new outlet for talking about wrestling. But that's how I joined up with Cageside. They were like, hey, we want some ladies talking about wrestling. Join our group. And I was like, okay. So I've been at Cageside for a while. Why wrestling? Well, I grew up watching wrestling, but like most people, I'm sure you hit a certain point where you're like, why am I doing this anymore? I can't do this anymore. But then something happens and you get sucked back in, and then it becomes your whole identity in your life. For me, I'm in Chicago, and there used to be a restaurant owned by Victoria from WWE, Lisa Marie, and it was a wrestling themed restaurant. And I went there with some friends, and I just got sucked back into the delight of wrestling, because all of the food was named after wrestling stuff, and there was wrestling playing on the monitors. And I was like, oh, wait, this rules. And then it just took over my life. Yeah, the wrestling restaurant no longer exists, unfortunately. I think it's like a tax audit office now. I don't know. It's some weird thing, but it was cool for the time that it was here. And I got to meet Lisa. It was really cool. But that's how I got sucked back in. Just a random, I'm out eating a burger. Oh, wait, wrestling's great.
That's really cool. There's nothing like that here.
It was really cool. They had alcoholic milkshakes.
Oh man, I don't even drink, but that sounds great. Jeez. Okay.
What about you, Marcus? Who are you and why wrestling?
Okay, so I am Marcus Benjamin, as she said very nicely. And I've been at Cageside for about a year now. I started it's been a year. I started last January. And the reason I got there is because Sean wrote something, after I believe it was Full Gear. I still do not like that name for a pay-per-view. Anyway, at Full Gear in 2019.
Not every pay-per-view can be called Great Balls of Fire. Not every pay-per-view can have a, literary iconic name.
Oh man, right.
Hashtag WWE balls.
They're PR people again. Anyway, yeah, Sean wrote something just basically saying, hey, like we need, we need a more diverse voice in wrestling in general. And, me being, me, and I was writing about wrestling with a couple of friends of mine on our site. And I just emailed him and just shared some thoughts and then just said, hey, by the way, I write. And it's been love ever since. So that's how I got here. And why wrestling? I got into wrestling, like you said, very young. We start very young. We get into it as kids. I got into it, I was probably 8 or 9 years old because I was 8 or 9 years old. And then,
Excited because it's for kids.
Right. 8 or 9 years old. It was fantastic. And then I fell out of it around high school and then probably got back into it maybe senior year of college. And I don't even remember what it was that did it, but something innate just made me turn to USA one day, in my small studio apartment in New York and just said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll watch this. Fine, cool. And I've been hooked ever since. Like I don't even remember if it was that great in 2007, 2008, but
I don't think it was.
I don't think it was. But it just again, something was probably going on in my life that just made me yearn for something nostalgic.
Nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
It really is. It really is. There's a line in the new Matrix movie where new Morpheus says, nostalgia is. He basically said it's the dopamine. It's the cure. It's the comfort for anxiety, and Lord knows it's been an anxious few years. So yeah.
Well, thank God wrestling is an essential service.
Yeah, you're right. So who's your favorite wrestler, Stella?
Okay, current favorite wrestler. I'm doing a cop-out answer.
Okay.
And I'm gonna choose 3, but they're part of a group because New Day is my ride or die.
That's fair. That is fair. They do come as a unit.
Every one of them is perfect on their own, but they're magic together. And I know I'm a broken record for anybody who follows me online or who listens to my other podcasts. Like, I have been ride or die New Day since before they were popular, when they were just doing like vignettes on WWE.com and on YouTube. And I would get into fights on the internet and be like, you guys don't understand. They're brilliant. And so I feel very justified that they're now considered one of the best tag teams of all time. And I just love all of them so much. But I will give another answer too. Favorite indie wrestler. And I just say indie as in like not currently signed with WWE and not signed with AEW, which are, I guess would be like the 2 big companies. I love Allison Kay so much. I think she is such a BAMF. She always kills it in the ring. She's a really great follow online. She is really nice in person. And every single time I've seen her wrestle, and I've seen her wrestle a lot because I have been to many, many Shimmer shows, she kicks butt. And I love her so much. So those are my 2 answers. What about you? Favorite wrestler?
Okay. So you did 2. I'm going to do favorite current and favorite of all time.
Okay. That's fair.
So that's how I'm going to split mine up. Favorite current is Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
It's normally a toss up between Bianca and Sasha. It depends on how I'm feeling, but today it's Bianca. Bianca can pretty much do everything and do it really well. She's great on the mic. She knows her character. I remember I actually had to defend her character to a friend of mine very recently. Just like, oh, she's just playing a hood girl. I'm like, no, she's playing a character from Mean Girls. Have you not seen Mean Girls? And I'm just like, that's easily, one of the plastics, at least Bianca as a heel was one of the plastics, the whole, she doesn't even go here or I go here now. That's the plastics thing. That's what they did. And she did that beautifully. And to basically do that same character, but sort of invert it and turn that energy and make her a face is a skill that not a lot of wrestlers have.
Very few wrestlers have.
Yes. Austin did it. Rock did it to a degree, which is, it's actually part of my hill to die on that I will get to later. But it's hard to make that switch. I mean, even Shawn, when Shawn became a good guy in the mid 90s, he kind of became a corny chump. Whereas Shawn is a bad guy in the early 90s was great. And then as he was a bad guy in the late 90s, he was great. Bianca can do that and not lose anything. It all feels the same. It all feels natural. And then, of course, in the ring, she's a powerhouse. She's acrobatic. She's powerful. She can do everything. She's crisp. She's smooth. Bianca's perfect.
Strong.
Right. She's strong.
Crazy
Again,
strong.
She
EST
lifted
for a reason.
Right. She lifted Otis. I'm still not over that. She lifted a grown man. And Otis is a grown man. She lifted him and walked with him. And then, of course, all time, a guy I just mentioned, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler of all time, will always be my favorite wrestler of all time. Again, maybe it was something about being 11, 12, and just being 11, being ridiculous as an 11, 12-year-old. But Shawn was it. Shawn was my guy, during that period, during that early DX period. That was it. I was hooked. Shawn will always be my guy. Period. Okay, so your turn. What is the wrestling hill that you are willing to die on?
My wrestling hill that I'll die on is that Kane is better than The Undertaker.
I knew she was going here. Okay.
He is. He's just, as I was saying, I'm drinking tea out of my world's greatest director of operations mug. Look, The Undertaker, iconic, obvious. Like the streak, the eye rolly thing, the purple gloves. I know I'm making so many people so mad right now. He looked pretty cool on a motorcycle, whatever. But like Kane, he was just so cool. Like crawled out of the ring, he had fire. He his whole face was covered, and he just emoted so well as somebody with, push his glasses up, several theater degrees. Mask work is very hard and he does a really good job. And then when he transitioned to team with Daniel Bryan or to be Corporate Kane, Corporate Kane is one of my favorite things ever. I just think Kane rules. Also, embarrassing thing about me, I would say, a fairly intelligent person. I understand what kayfabe is. I have been watching wrestling my whole life. I fully bought into Kane and The Undertaker being real brothers until I was 27. And that is so embarrassing. I wanted to believe so much. I knew their real names. I knew there's no reason for me to not have put two and two together, but I wanted to believe it so deeply in my heart that they were real brothers. So
let's get this straight. You thought that The Undertaker was really brothers with fake Diesel and Isaac Yankem DDS.
Look, I wanted to believe it a lot. Okay. Brothers of Destruction is really cool. And I just love Kane a bunch. So that's my wrestling hill. Kane is better than The Undertaker. I will be here defending it with swords and axes.
And I love that you say everything with your chest. I love it.
What is the wrestling hill you'll die on?
That The Rock is much better as a heel than a face. And when he turned face, he got soft. That is the hill I die on. Obviously Rock as the face is, that's who The Rock is now, when he's in Hollywood, that's who it is. But Rock as a heel, and I'm not talking about Hollywood Rock, 2003 Rock. I'm talking about 98 to, early 99 Rock as a bad guy or as a tweener. That's the best version of The Rock. Once he, the Rock and Sock connection, I get it. Highest rated segment ever. Yeah. Cool. I get it. Rock sold a lot of t-shirts. Rock was box office. I get it. He was on the Chef Boyardee thing. I remember all of that. I got that. Him and Wyclef, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Cool. I got it. Method Man did a song for The Rock. Method Man's my favorite rapper of all time. The Rock, great, awesome, cool. But that was soft. They shaved his edges off a little bit. And every now and then he'd do a joke where now you'd be like, oh, dude, some of his strudel,
most of wrestling in the 90s.
Yeah. His strudel jokes okay. But it's just he lost a little bit of that edge, and the thing that made me be like, oh, that's the guy I really like. That's the guy I really love. So that's the hill I die on. Just, Rock was better as a heel than a face. And again, specifically early heel Rock, not 2003, I'm coming back and I'm going to do Rock concert Rock. I mean, WrestleMania 15 Rock. WrestleMania 14 Rock, where he
The
did
best
the interview.
WrestleMania of all time? Is that
Yes,
what
it
you mean?
is. Yes, so that's the exact WrestleMania I mean. It is the greatest of all time. WrestleMania 14 Rock, where he's doing an interview with Jennifer Flowers. That's the Rock. That's the guy I love. Early Rock was just the coolest, and I die there.
Our hills can be next to each other.
They can be. They can be. Yes, because Kane also appeared during that era, 97, 98. Kane knows what's up.
Kane knows what's up. Speaking of knowing what's up, seamless transition. So at Cageside, we obviously report news that happens, and we have a very popular rumor roundup section that you can check out every single day. So here on the podcast, we'll hit a little news and a little rumor section. So the news I have for this week is, well, there's been some new signees in AEW, signees that were rumored, but that are exciting. The big one debuted last night, Brody King in AEW. New faction.
The House of Black. Yes. Scary,
I guess.
Right? It's supposed to be. Before Brody, I mean, we and again, as Slack and just probably the wrestling world figured Brody King was the guy who was going to be introduced into the House of Black. It is crazy that AEW has yet another faction on its hand.
They love factions.
They love factions. They love them. Like if you're
an AEW, smart way to get to you. If you have a big roster, it is a smart way to get people TV time, even if they're not wrestling though. So like, I don't know, maybe that's where it's at. Big rosters, tons of factions.
I agree. And, that's actually my favorite thing. That was my favorite thing of, late 90s wrestling was the factions, like just Disciples of Apocalypse, DX, The Nation, all of that. Like, I love that. So I love that AEW has the House of Black. They have the Super Clique, but then they also have the Elite, but then they've also got Red Dragon. Like, everybody's got their thing now. And then
Best
they have
friends.
Best Friends, the Dark Order, but then they have groups inside of groups now. So, which is, it was like Inception kind of stuff. But we got a thing inside of a thing, inside of another thing. And I think Brody King brings a lot. Like, my actually first introduction to Brody King was through my best friend giving me the music, of the band and being like, yo, this dude wrestles. You should listen to the music. I was like, all right, I love the album, love the music. So I was really intrigued when they were like, oh, he's going to be in AEW and join Malachi Black. Oh, okay. Because at first I thought, like, what if they put Julia Hart in the House of Black? Because her and that eye patch, man.
She's really leaning into the eye patch.
Last night she was possessed.
Hey, you can have a gothy cheerleader. As somebody who used to kind of be a gothy cheerleader, I can say that it could work out.
Yeah, it could. And I think what Malachi Black does, or at least what he did, and he's done it less so, in the months since he debuted and kicked Cody's head off, is he brings an element to AEW that they kind of lack. And
the spooky element?
Yeah. He brings the spooky, he brings the mystery, and hopefully Brody King just enhances that. They need that, but they also need to put him against someone where it really works. I'm not really digging the whole, hey, we're going to put these two guys against Varsity Blondes. And a part of that is because I don't know. I like the Varsity Blondes.
Blondes are a weak team. Yeah,
exactly. Right.
It's not shocking or impressive to beat Brian Pillman Jr. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And they've, the MJF thing with Brian Pillman Jr. just already sort of, decreased his value a bit. So, it reminds me of Gargamel picking on Smurfs at that point. But, that's
just a
me.
Specific reference. I'm really excited to see Brody King. I've seen Brody King wrestle in the Indies because, like I said, I live in Chicago, and pre-pandemic, pre-WWE destroying the Indies, there's a lot of great wrestling here. So I've actually seen him live before, and I think that he is a really good mix of that big man bruiser, but also has that fluidity to him. So I think he pairs really well with someone like Malachi Black, who has like a fluidity to him, like that. His whole wrestling style is very smooth. But for me, there's something very corny about him that doesn't click for me. I think it's honestly, I think it's his time in WWE, and it's been hard for me to shake that. The whole, like, I'm in a closet talking to myself, quoting Shakespeare poorly. like, here's my journal full of sad poetry, like really did a number on me. And I was like, so he's not cool anymore. And when he moved over to AEW, they have been building on that a little bit, but they added their cool special effects, I guess. And so it's taken for me personally some time to readjust to Malachi Black being a spooky threat. And I think for me, Brody King adds legitimacy to that threatening, spooky nature. And if Pac does join House of Black, that was kind of teased with him being like blind, and like that could be really cool, especially because Pac is so threatening. Like,
yeah, that's a mean man. Yes,
he's got big honey badger energy, and I love it. Like, he is tiny and angry, and I like it a lot. Tiny, like not tiny, but compact and angry. I think, and even if like Julia Hart goes like cheerleader goth and joins, like I think the idea of Malachi Black and the mist that he spits, that like oily kind of mist that he spits, being something that infects you and you do fall into the House of Black, like that's threatening, right? And so I think adding to his stable can only help him. And also, I personally just really like Brody King, and so I'm very happy to see him in AEW.
I'm going to sound very Markish. I'm happy. My name is Marcus. I'm going to sound very Markish when I say that I'm happy to see anyone show up in AEW, because I know they'll at least get a shot to do something that they really want to do.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work, they're going to get a shot. They're going to get a shot and like, all right, man, we're going to try it. We're going to give you the rope. Go do your thing. We'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but they're going to get a shot. So I'm interested to see where this goes. And I love your idea about Pac showing up. That would be really cool. So then we'd have Death Triangle. Actually, when we Death Triangle at that point, it'd be Death Square? No, that would be 4 people.
Well, that's if you put a faction inside a faction. Who knows? A couple weeks ago, when the Lucha Bros were facing off with Jurassic Express for the tag title, before that, they did the little switcheroo, we all teleport with Malachi Black. So maybe that's like a tease there, but also Phoenix will be out for who knows how long with that brutal arm spot. Thank God he didn't break it, but still, yikes.
I missed him last night. I really did.
I know Phoenix is one of my favorites. I think he is incredible, but he'll be back. We have faith in Phoenix.
We do. And faith in the Lucha Bros. They'll get it together. On the subject of faith, John Cena spoke about the recent exodus, cuts from WWE, and whether he still has faith in WWE and, faith in how they're doing things and why anyone else should still have faith in WWE. And John Cena, also this story is at CagesideSeats.com. Remember, check it out. John Cena said something very, very, very crucial that I think every wrestling fan needs to know. Unless your name is Vince McMahon, you're replaceable. That is gospel. That is from the face that used to run the place. That's from his lips to everyone else's ears. It's true.
I mean, that's definitely should just be the tagline of WWE. Forget then, now, forever. It's just WWE. Unless you're Vince McMahon, you're replaceable.
Pretty much.
3 hours of Raw.
Oh yeah, those 3 hours of Raw. Yeah, and Vince is on those 3 hours of Raw now. Again,
just mumbling incoherently.
Yeah,
Austin Theory.
And
in a truly questionable series of segments.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And again, just they don't always do what they think they're doing sometimes. Yeah. Anyway, so we don't get kicked off.
Kicked off where? This is our podcast. Nobody can kick us off.
Who knows, man? They might shut it down one day.
I'm just saying, WWE desperately needs to hire some queer writers. You don't even have to hire them to write in the room. You just need to hire them, write a segment, bring them in, and have them tell you, I see what you think you're doing here. You're not. It's reading a very different way.
And I agreed with that. It's the same. It's not the exact same thing, but I feel the same way about having more Black writers on when they're talking about the solo cups and just like, y'all don't. That's not what you think it is. It's not like this party. It's not a fun thing where like, hey, like Byron's on commentary talking about he asked Santa for a solo cup for Christmas. He did? Yeah, or it just doesn't, whatever. Anyway, but let's get back to Cena. The crux of what he said. What is, like, do you agree with that? I mean, is that something that everyone, Cena said a lot. Again, this is a man who is media trained.
Yeah,
and
this
he's
is
a smart
a man
guy
who knows how to say what he means, but couch it in like a flower. Cause that's the like big pull quote from it, right? That's like, and I think that is the crux of what he was saying. But he also, when he was talking, was diplomatic and politically correct, blah, blah, blah. But he did have a lot of empathy. He was like, I get it, man. My heart goes out to everybody who didn't get a chance to show what they were capable of. And I know that there were tons of really talented wrestlers that got released. Like, that's the most heartbreaking thing about these cuts, is that there are talented people that we know didn't get to show who they really are. And that's always going to be devastating. But at the end of the day, right or wrong, this is like a big corporate company and they're going to do big corporate stuff. And
right.
it's hard because as wrestling fans, like, we get so emotionally invested. Like, it is a sport that is like, you know, an homage to the old gladiatorial sports. Like, it is, you get so invested. It is the soap opera Shakespeare meets a gladiator ring. Like, you put your whole self into watching it, which is part of the reason the fandom is so, you know, feral, frankly. Like, why there's so many podcasts, why there's so many blogs and Twitters, because people are so invested. And so it's hard sometimes when you really believe in these performers, especially if they're performers that you connected to on the indies and you know how good they are because you've seen it with your own two eyes, to watch them not get the opportunities that you know that they would succeed at if they just got them, right? Or if there weren't a whole flipping obstacle course put in front of them, both literally and figuratively sometimes. Like, this whole idea of like the brass ring, or like you gotta pay your dues, or blah blah blah, this old school mentality, like, really is harmful in a lot of ways. And the people that can break through, like, that's incredible, right? But sometimes I would argue a lot of the times it's not the performer's fault when they don't break through and then are ultimately cut. Because as we've seen with all of these releases, there have been several where people are like, who got released? They were in the middle of a push, or they were doing this. Like, it seems so arbitrary sometimes. And I think that arbitrariness of it really does reinforce that unless you're Vince McMahon, like, you're replaceable. You could be on Monday Night Raw on a Monday and then be released on a Wednesday. Like, it is truly just at whoever's whim.
And I think about Hit Row, you know, where SmackDown made such a big deal about Hit Row showing up.
And they were killing it at NXT. Yeah. Like, everybody was into Hit Row.
Yeah. SmackDown made a big deal about it. WWE made a big deal about it. And then gone. They're all gone.
And Swerve specifically I liked everybody in that faction, but a lot of them were newer talent or people I hadn't seen. But like, Swerve is a good example of what I was talking about. He is an indie star, right? He was killing it as Killshot on Lucha Underground. Like, he is an incredible wrestler, a verifiable, incredible wrestler. And he really stepped up to the plate when he was in the ring at WWE and like ran with this character in this faction. He did everything I think that he could have within WWE, and it's not it just somebody decided to cut them. Like, that's not on him, right?
Right. It's not. And it's the one good thing about it. Well, if you can call it good, is there are a lot more opportunities now. And Cena even spoke about this indirectly, but he said that, you know, he talked about what the climate of the business was when he first got in. You know, we're talking early 2000s versus now. So then if you got cut, your choice is to go back to an indie. But even then, you know, this is when, you know, WWE was just absorbing everything.
Right.
So your choices were limited. Now, if you get cut, you have options. You have options that, while, you know, one option may pay you as well as WWE did, AEW. Other options may not pay you as well, but they will pay you. New Japan, you know, NWA, you know, Ring of Honor's getting their stuff back together.
Impact.
Like, there are places for you to go where you can still shine, still make a living, and still do what you love, and probably have a better opportunity to shine. Because as you and I've talked about, as a lot of people talked about, unless you're Vince, you're replaceable. The way it is right now, unless you're Roman or Brock, you're kind of like an afterthought almost, unless you are going to be fed to Roman or Brock, at which case we then need to pump you up a little bit, only so that we can then put you back down. Those two operate on a level that not everyone gets to operate at, and because of that, it always hurt. Like, it does hurt when people get cut, because like you said, wrestling is one of those things where you emotionally invest. It's not like the NFL or MLB or NBA, where I know, okay, such and such signed a contract for 4 or 5 years. When those 4 or 5 years are up, or before then, they're going to go. If I know that such and such had a great year in their free agent year, there's a good chance they're going to go to another team because they want more money and they want a better chance to win. That's accepted in professional sports like that. In wrestling, it's a different thing. Like we don't have that expectation. We expect that we'll see these people on our TV for 10, 15, 20 years doing the same thing in the same company. And it does suck when we're always talking about, oh, WWE needs new stars, or, potentially when we get to that point where AEW needs new stars, and they keep letting people go. And it's just like, well, man, like, how do we get out of that cycle?
Well, switching to our rumor side, I think that's like a double-edged sword though, right? Because like, okay, we released all these people, we had a fat roster, we needed to shake things up. Let's look to our new talent and our developmental. I don't even know if you can really honestly call it NXT developmental anymore. It just seems like another show that they have. But NXT has been rebranded, right? It's NXT 2.0. And now they have just like a bevy of new people, some of it working, most of it not. And there was rumor this week that Bruce Pritchard was the new point person for creative in NXT, which definitely just makes it feel like, oh, NXT isn't different anymore. William Regal is not there anymore. It just is another cog in this bigger machine. So how are these new talents going to get a chance to build their character up in this like safe space, to unfortunately quote Joe Gacy, of NXT, when it's just like every other part of WWE now?
I will say this, as the person who recaps and reviews NXT for our site, it's really bad timing that rumor came out, and then the show that was Tuesday, because I was not a fan.
No.
And I know you weren't either.
Well, I've been kind of a naysayer since the whole rebrand. Like, to me, the whole idea of being like, we're gonna put a bunch of money in this, and we're gonna redecorate, because we don't want it to feel like an indie anymore. We want it to feel like something that's on network TV and feel similar to our other products. LOL, we just made a high school gym.
Right. I've
been to a lot of indie shows in high school gyms, and like, this is just like a high school gym in a rich neighborhood. Like, I'm sorry. This is like, that is incredible to me.
But for me, like, aesthetically aside, because you're right, this was the first NXT since the rebrand that genuinely felt like Raw or SmackDown to me. Like, it just felt like it. NXT, again, we talk about this. NXT 2.0 is a fast show. It is breakneck speed. Tuesday was not breakneck speed. Tuesday felt off. It felt weird. Like, there didn't feel like there was a rhythm to the show. And
it feels like a bunch of disjointed vignettes, and some of them work. There are some breakout stars in NXT 2.0. Like, I would say Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, definitely breakout stars. I think Braun, definitely, though I thought his promo this week was very like, really like, well, I'm a champion now. Here's my champion promo.
Yeah, that's all that was. It was very generic. And that's what I was getting at. Like, we're saying, oh, we're running it through Bruce now, so things feel very generic. And it's not a knock to Bruce as much as it is a knock to this idea that you mentioned earlier of, we have to do things a certain way because of an old school mentality. The WWE from a managerial standpoint, and AEW is eventually going to get there too. So don't, listeners, don't sit there and be like, oh, they're just going to dump in WWE.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to duck at AEW too.
To quote people who use this term correctly, we got smoke for AEW.
We should have called this podcast the Dunk Tank.
But WWE managerial creatively needs fresh blood. Vince, God love him, Vince is getting up there, obviously. There comes a point where you just go out of touch. And Carmelo Hayes talked about, or Shawn Michaels talked about it actually. Shawn Michaels said that he looks to Carmelo Hayes and says, look, man, I don't know what's cool anymore. You got to tell me what's cool. So that's what we're going to do. And you can see that with the way Carmelo and Trick are. They are seemingly given free reign to do what's now. And I think when you're trying to run that through someone who, again, respectfully, saw their heyday 30, 40 years ago, what are we doing? How are we moving forward? How are we actually, how are we evolving the product to be what it should be today, rather than just going in a cycle? I mean, again, I love Brock, truly love Brock, but dude, Brock's been around for 20 years now.
Yeah, but now he has a man bun and overalls.
That's true. And he has a sense of humor now. That's true. And I love Lashley. I love Lashley. Well, we love the Hurt Business.
We love Lashley on this podcast.
Yes, love him. But again, 20 years. Love what Roman's doing. I've loved it since he started this whole mafia boss character. I love it. I love the tribal chief. But Roman's been around now for what feels like a decade. Even if he hasn't, it feels like it. And it's just, at a certain point, we need to reinvigorate. They got to do what a lot of NFL teams are doing right now, who aren't in the playoffs, like my beloved New York Giants, where you just say, you know what? We're wiping the slate clean, baby. We're getting rid of the things we don't need to get rid of, and we're going to start over.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I feel like WWE, specifically with newer talent, is stuck in this. It's kind of like comics publishing, I feel like, where it's like, oh, we're going to have this new comic and it's going to be this like really hip thing, or this like, oh, we hired all these female writers, or it's like this new diverse comic and we're going to give it 10 issues. And if it's not the best selling thing immediately, we're canceling it. And I feel like with a lot of newer talent in WWE the past several years, and now I'm really worried about with NXT, if it's not working immediately, we scrap it. And that is stressful.
Yeah, it is. Especially when, like you said, you're stuck in that cycle of, all right, man, we're going to give you these weeks. If you're not the greatest shit ever in these weeks, sorry. And that's tough. But you know what else is tough? Things that live in our head rent free.
Seamless transition.
We're
this section, after we move on for our news and rumors, we are each going to pick the thing that is living rent free in our head this week of wrestling, because obviously there's so much in wrestling. We're not going to be able to cover it in an hour and a half podcast every week. We're just not. So each of us are going to pick the number one thing that we want to talk about. It lives rent free. What is living rent free in your head this week, Marcus?
You know what it is? Truthfully. It's Big E. And here's why it is. I'm upset at his run. He is too. Again, CagesideSeats.com. We got a story on it. That Big E was disappointed with his title run.
Yeah.
You are. We're big New Day fans. We love, when Big E won the championship, I know you cried and I had an emotional moment myself. It was fantastic. It was great. And for it to end the way it did, with him also getting fed to Brock, just like Kofi, with him also getting fed to Brock for reasons, just because corporate reasons, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania.
Well, and also COVID reasons, right? Like
COVID
Roman was out at day one.
Yep.
Still bitter about the fact that I had to work on New Year's Day, by the way. Roman was on with COVID. Like, that's obviously something that we can't control in this environment. And instead of giving Brock and Heyman like a segment where they just like dunk on Roman or they do something else, they put Brock in the Big East championship match, which was already a 4-way.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, it was already a 4-way. And then it became No, it was a three-way.
No, it was four. It was four because it was Big E, KO, Seth,
Seth.
and Bobby.
Bobby. Okay. I was like, what is math? I have too many theater degrees to do math.
we're all writers, people. We don't count. We don't do that.
Yeah. So they just threw him in this match. And then like when you see Brock thrown into a match like that, you're like, oh, okay. So Brock is gonna win.
Right. Not only that, but when you see Brock come out last, you're like, oh, okay, well, we got this. So for E to have the run that he did, where I genuinely felt this, and I wrote this in one of my recaps of Raw, that Big E's championship reign wasn't about Big E. They never made it about Big E. It was about Seth. It was about KO. It was about Bobby. It was about Brock. It was about everyone except him. And in the four-way match, when KO and Seth are scheming on Raw for a couple weeks of how to take out Lashley and say that Lashley is the biggest threat to the title and say that Lashley is the biggest threat to them winning, well, then why do I care about Big E? You've told me that WWE champion means nothing.
And honestly, every promo that they had Big E do was just him being like, no, I am a good champion. No, I am. Yes. You should pay attention to me. Here are the reasons why you should pay attention to me. Like Big E had to go out in every interview and every promo and just like basically beg people to care about him. And that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, he had to run a campaign on why I'm the WWE champion, why I should remain WWE champion. Vote for me for 4 more years. It was just really weird, and I felt bad for dude. I felt bad for the journey that he went on to get to that point and to have it just be blah, to be just nothing, and then more to the point of me just wondering, well, how does WWE feel about the WWE championship? Because it feels like, even with Brock doesn't care about that belt. Brock doesn't even care about fighting Bobby Lashley.
Brock cares about very little.
It's true. Brock cares about that. That's a good point. Brock cares about being in Saskatchewan with all those commas in his bank account and his wife and his children. You're right. But he doesn't care about that belt. He doesn't care about Lashley. So the minute Lashley won to face Brock at the Rumble, Brock's worried about Roman.
Yeah.
Brock's worried about the Universal Championship. And it's just like, what are they doing with the belt, the belt that has the longest lineage in their company? And what I feel, again, y'all may disagree. That's cool. I feel like they're disrespecting that belt. I don't see the love for it. I don't see the love for the champion unless their name is Brock Lesnar. And I feel like that's a smack in the face of Big E, of Bobby Lashley, the last 2 WWE champs, of Drew McIntyre, to even take it a step further. It's just really, really weird. And again, I hope, one person on our staff feels like this is it for E. They're dropping E back down to the bottom of the card. And when you lose to Seth Rollins clean on a Monday night, you might be right about that. Yeah. But I hope it's not the case.
Me too. Obviously, I want the best for the New Day always. But yeah, it's one of those double-edged swords, catch-22s that WWE writes themselves into all the time, where one of the best, if not the best storyline currently on SmackDown or Raw is the Brock, Paul Heyman, Roman triangle. Like that is the most compelling and interesting thing. So I understand why they want to focus on that and keep pivoting to that. But if you over pivot to it, you do that to the detriment of the other titles and the other people on your roster. Like there is a reason you did a brand split. Like you're going back into the old school days where like nothing really matters.
Yep, exactly. But that's my head, rent free. Yeah, and rent's expensive these days. What about you? What's going on in your head, rent free?
The thing that is living rent free in my head is the Women's Royal Rumble announcement from 2 SmackDowns ago, from like a SmackDown and a half ago. I don't know what is time, because time
is a flat circle. Whatever.
I have been thinking about this since the announcement. Okay, so they announced, okay, Women's Royal Rumble, this is going to happen. Let's name some people. And you hear like, okay, Shayna Baszler, Bianca, people on the roster. We understand. And then they say Summer Rae. And you're like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. the Bella twins. And that's when I immediately started crying. Just like, I'm full Bella army here, like just tears all down. And then Mickie James, the current Impact Women's Champion. Like,
Yeah.
it was a wild 30 seconds or whatever, right? And part of me was so excited because, you know, specifically for me, like, I am a huge Bella Twins fan. I love Nikki Bella. We thought Nikki would never get to wrestle again. So that was really, really exciting that she's been cleared. What does that mean? Or is she just cleared for the Rumble? Are they coming back for tag titles? Like, that is so exciting. And then the Mickie James thing, like, what is a forbidden door? Like, Mickie James, the Impact champion, the woman who got her stuff sent home to her in a trash bag, is going to be in the Royal Rumble. We haven't seen Summer Rae in a long time. Like, all of this stuff is really cool. And that was really exciting. But then I feel like everybody felt this. Everybody was like, wow. And then everybody was like, wait a minute. Is it a point of the Royal Rumble to like have surprises? Like, you guys are blowing your load pretty early. Like, what's going to happen here? And I kind of get it. Like, you want to do a tease to get people excited, to get people watching. But to me, at least, like, I feel like most wrestling fans, you say, what's your favorite pay-per-view? And they're going to say the Royal Rumble. Like, people tune into the Royal Rumble because of that excitement factor. I don't feel like they needed to do this announcement early on. And to me, it's like, okay, there's still some other slots open. So who's that going to be? Hopefully, knock on everything in the world that it's not Ronda Rousey. That is a sidebar for a different time. But like, also, is there just like an insane surprise in the men's one? Like, are they going to pull like a true WWE and have no surprises because they're like, yeah, we told them, I don't know. We thought we were going to do something that we pulled it last minute. Who cares? Like, it is just it was both exciting and also confusing and then also kind of disappointing. Like, what's happening here? But at the end of the day, Brie mode for life. Nikki Bella's back. I'm very excited. What did you think about that?
I was excited, but also like you, very confused because I'm like, okay, well, hold up. You're telling me all this now. What, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are they, like you said, are they keeping the surprises for the men's rumble? Or are they not doing surprises at all?
Yeah, it really is cool. Like either or. I feel like there's no middle ground with WWE. It's either like we did this as a swerve or we're not doing anything else.
Right. And the Mickie James thing was the thing that caught me off guard the most. I'm like, wow, okay.
And then she retained that title at Hard to Kill. So they announced that the day before Hard to Kill, right?
Bring the Impact title to Royal Rumble.
Right. So everybody's like, she's going to drop it. Definitely. She's definitely dropping it at Hard to Kill. Right. Spoiler, she did not drop it at Hard to Kill.
Right. Which is, again, it is, we're used to WWE not acknowledging the world outside of WWE. It's really cool. Again, like I said, forward thinking earlier. It's really cool for them to say, you know what? There is a world outside of WWE. And if she comes to the ring with that championship on her shoulder, on her waist, that's really, really cool. And also, obviously she's not going to win it, but like, it's really cool. And even having the Bellas back, like you said, like never thinking Nikki was going to wrestle again. And now she's going to be in the Rumble. And there's, I obviously, they're always going to talk, well, we can make that comeback. I would love to see them come back. They being WWE needs more women wrestlers right now because, once again, we're getting to that same point with Brock and Roman where Charlotte and Becky rule the roast. And if you're not Charlotte or Becky, tough. Yeah, so bringing other women in who are already built, who are already made, who the audience already knows, right? It's a connection with helps.
Who can be champions, especially Nikki. Like she was a champion for a long time and proved to be a really good champion. Like, we know that she can do that. And like, I love Brie with all my heart. She's maybe not like solo championship material,
but she plays a role.
Yeah. And the women's tag division could definitely use some like literally anything, frankly.
Yeah. Cause right now it's Zelina and Carmella. And they're what they're doing works, but they're only people we've seen them beef with It's super brutality. Nikki
and they're not even together
and they're not a thing anymore. So it's like, all right, well, who's next? Like you're not.
Almost superheroes don't need friends.
I said that's her bizarro turn. That she's now. It went from almost a superhero to a superhero.
Yeah.
And it's just this weird thing where when's the last time we saw a WWE, a main roster women's tag match? Like women's tag, not, hey, we're putting 3 y'all together and, six women, just 2-on-2 women's tag so they can move up the ladder.
I think probably when that belt was won.
Yeah, that's exactly. So
those are just teams that were randomly thrown together too. Cause and some of the best tag teams are like born that way. Right. But they don't really have a tag division. They have women's wrestlers that they stick together and they go, yeah, I don't know, go do something.
Right. Yeah. And, it's cool if you can do it, but they need more. And bringing the Bellas in helps that. Summer Rae's, I don't know if Summer Rae is a permanent thing. I would love for her to be a permanent thing. I miss her.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, so that's the other thing I want to know is how many of these people are actually staying? Mickie James obviously is not staying, but are the Bellas staying? Is Summer Rae staying? And then what can we do with this going forward? Like, how do you repackage or recontextualize these women who were there 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago to what it is now, in this different landscape? And I think that's really cool. This is, again, about the shake-up stuff I'm talking about. They need to shake things up whenever they can. This is a good idea, potentially.
Okay. Right now, off the top of your head, who wins the Women's Royal Rumble?
Bianca, because I feel like they're doing the whole, hey, we're going to do Bianca versus Becky at Mania because we did Bianca versus Bianca versus Sasha last time. Now let's do Bianca and Becky so we can finally do it. And Becky clearly telegraphed it already.
Yeah, I'm manifesting. I want Nikki to win. I don't care what anybody in the comments of this podcast say. I'm manifesting. I want Nikki Bella to win.
Nikki, but that's the thing. While Bianca and Becky would be dope, Nikki and Becky would be a different type of dope because I think that's a more interesting story to me.
Especially if Becky's the heel, right? If Becky's like big time Bex and Nikki comes back as like, oh my God, Nikki Bella, we never thought we would see you again. She's a baby face. Like I'm here for that.
Yes, that's a more interesting story because I've seen Bianca and Becky. I know how that goes. And again, Becky telegraphed it, but I would love to see a wrinkle, and Nikki would be a great wrinkle in furthering Becky's new, Becky, big time Bex, that whole thing, furthering that, but also just putting her against someone who legitimately has a gripe, and her gripe can be, I built all this.
Yeah.
And you are standing on my shoulders saying that you're great. And this is my chance. Very much like
you're big times Bex. I'm Nikki Bella of the Bella Twins empire.
Right. Exactly. It's very similar to Edge when Edge came back, where it's like, I have unfinished business, and my unfinished business starts with that championship. So I would love that. So again, I'm going with Bianca. If it happens to be her being Nikki, not mad at that either. Enough of us talking.
Let's hear some other people talk.
Yeah.
So we're doing a section on our podcast every week. We're going to take questions from our listeners. That's you. So you can be a part of the podcast because at Cageside, we are a very interactive blog. There's comment sections. You can do a fan post. And we wanted to make sure that our podcast also includes you. Though since it is our first one, we just bullied other people on staff and our friends to send us questions. So this first question is from our staff member, Kane.
How much do you want to see Beth Phoenix kick the crap out of The Miz and Maurice?
Very much. Very much. Although, again, interesting. Maurice doesn't seem fully on board yet.
I know, especially for like think back when Miz and Maurice were feuding with Brie and Daniel. Like Miz and Maurice were on the same page. They were doing like SNL tier sketch comedy. Like they were killing it, right? But this one, like, I again love Brie Bella with all of my heart. She's not threatening, right? So Maurice was like, I can take her. But it's a very different situation when you're Maurice looking into the eyes of the Beth Phoenix, the Glamazon, and you're like, wait a minute, maybe this was not a great idea.
Yeah, it's different when you're looking at someone who you're like, oh, she's a model. Oh, okay, cool. Versus, oh, she can destroy me.
Oh yeah,
She
this
will
woman
kill
can
me.
break my back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Bane style.
right, and then of course, she's sadistic, much like her husband. Like it's a different. It's to quote one of my favorite rappers. It's a different degree of homicide. Like completely different for her to be like, yep, I'm gonna go in there with Beth Phoenix, and then it's Miz doing all the talking. So I don't really know if I want to see Maurice get her butt kicked yet, as much as I want to see Miz get his butt kicked for putting his wife in this situation. Now, of course, Maurice is a hill. I'm sure she's going to do something to make me be like, oh, you're whack. Fine. I hope she kills you. But right now, I more so want to see Beth Phoenix kill Miz.
Yeah, right now it's like, honestly, frankly, right now, Maurice and Edge are afterthoughts, and I want Beth Phoenix to murder the Miz on live TV.
That's what I want. That's exactly what I want.
Good question. Maurice on the outside, like shocked and appalled that her husband is dead, and Edge on the outside, just like slow clapping his wife doing a murder. Also, can we talk about how cute it was when the segment where Edge was like, here's a video I made about my awesome wife, and here's my awesome wife, and can we all just talk about how awesome my wife is? So it's like, we love a wife guy.
It was awesome. And Maurice, I'm sorry, Beth was like, oh, so are you trying to, butter me up for later?
You trying to
because it's working.
Live TV.
Right. I loved it. That was and then again showing that contrast of Edge being like, yo, I made this about my wife because you all don't remember how great my wife is. Let me tell you about my wife. Versus Miz, who's just like,
she's not the Edge's wife. She's not Edge's wife. She's Beth
Phoenix. Exactly. That's his point. He's like, yeah, she married me, but she was great before me. Here's the proof. Whereas Miz is just like, yeah, and I made this about Maurice. Look at it. And it's, just it's obvious pandering to his wife. And she's not feeling it. And I really want to know where that goes and how we get there.
Yeah. Is it a mind game? Is it a Maurice mind game, or is she actually mad at the Miz? We'll never know. Turn into Miz and Mrs. on USA. Just kidding.
I've never watched that show.
It's an excellent show. I will stand for that show. It's very good. It is a perfect mix of a sitcom and a reality show. Because like Miz and Maurice they know exactly the brand that they put out there. So right. I will pimp that show. USA, come sponsor our podcast.
We will also pimp Monday Night Raw for you, USA. Oh, we have a question from Jacob. So Jacob's question for the show is WWE/NXT realizing they made some mistakes with rushing some of the new faces, such as Tiffany Stratton and Lash Legend, given that after their debut matches, we haven't seen them? Good question, Jacob. Thank you, sir. I owe you one. And you know what? You take that one. What do you think? You take that one first.
So just going to say how I feel about both of them. I really like Lash Legend. I think that she has a lot of potential, and it's obviously she's been given a gimmick that somebody on staff probably thought was funny and didn't really think it through, but I think she's doing a good job with it. But I haven't seen her a ton in the ring, right? So I would like to see more. I think she's got a lot of potential. I liked her. I would like to know where she went. Tiffany Stratton, the like daddy's rich girl thing is boring to me and overdone. And frankly, it's done better on WoW with the like governor's daughter, which is, Women of Wrestling is a whatever show. There's a lot of things to like about it. There's a lot of things not to like about it. But she's also another one. Like I feel she's got such an athletic background, right? She's got a good look. Her debut match wasn't terrible. It was green. And there was like a couple spots that were like, okay, like she needs work on that, but it wasn't bad. I think both of them have so much potential. And there's a lot happening in the men's division, specifically on NXT, where there's like lots of random flubs and lots of like, okay, what are you doing? And they get tons of chances, like thinking about like Von Wagner, like that guy is boring and also like not an amazing wrestler, but he's on TV every week. Like
sure is.
It's more annoying. I think it's less, I don't know, maybe that's just me because like I'm paranoid about women's wrestling because it's perpetually overlooked everywhere. But to me, it kind of feels like NXT's women's division has this reputation of being really badass for good reason. And the fact that these two wrestlers weren't immediately like amazing, it feels like they got pulled off of TV in a way that doesn't happen a lot in the men's division on NXT, which is a bummer.
I agree with that. I think that they are giving the men a lot of latitude right now. And truthfully, I think the other problem, I don't, if I'm going to answer Jacob directly, I don't think it's that they think they pulled the gun too early on them. I think it's they really, really want to do this toxic attraction thing. Like they really pushing that to take another NXT quote. They're pushing that to the moon. It is toxic attraction 24/7.
Yeah.
It is Mandy. It is Gigi. Like it is that whole thing. And it just seems like if you're not toxic attraction, you have no place in this show.
If you're not toxic attraction and you're not already like well established,
yes.
like, and even the well established people are being used as foils for toxic attraction. And it's tough for toxic attraction for me because like I like Mandy and I like Gigi. Like Gigi was somebody on the indies who I adored. Like I loved PK. I don't care about the one that wears the hat. I can't even remember her name.
JC
J. I like them, but their gimmick feels so WWE. And so we're going to do like a hot girl thing and we're going to be like the living embodiment of like that cherry pie song. And it's just like not working.
They're basically a Whitesnake video.
Yeah, it's basically like a Whitesnake video. And it's like, what is it? Like, there is a difference between being sexy and using your like feminine wiles to enhance your wrestling gimmick or whatever, and then just being, it's very much a male gaze gimmick, and it is not empowering, and it doesn't affect their wrestling in any way. It's just like a gimmick laid on top of them, and that's why it's not working for me. It's just like it's a gimmick costume, right? It's just it feels like just a costume. It feels like just a idea, and it's not who they are as wrestlers. It is just a wrestling faction that is very from the male gaze, and it doesn't work at all for me. And it's not even because I don't like super sexy wrestlers or anything. I'm a burlesque dancer. I'm whipping it out all over the place. Like I have no problem with people being nude or being in charge of their sexuality or using that as part of their gimmick or using that. Cause like Priscilla Kelly on the indies, like that was a huge part of her gimmick, like being very like sexually aggressive and forward and stuff, and like that always rang true. But this just feels like, hey, we went to Fredericks of Hollywood and now we're wrestling.
it's also
a bummer,
and it's also blatant too, because in their vignette on Tuesday, they talked about all the men who thirst after them, like they actually said thirst, and I was like, oh, okay. NXT 2.0 was very much Attitude Era light. And that's both for better or for worse. There are things about it that are Attitude Era like that I like the fact that the wrestlers feel like real people and they don't just feel like people who just showed up to wrestle. They come out wearing real clothes like you and I wear. They don't just come out in their wrestling tights all the time. Like they all seem like they have interior lives. On the flip side of that, though, is it is very 13-year-old boy sexual edge, like this is it just just with the toxic attraction thing. I think I like Mandy. I like Mandy. I like Gigi. Jason, yeah. But I like them. I like what Mandy's doing with that character of being like, I am all that in 5 bag of chips, and I'm going to come to the ring in a helicopter for my match. I love that, but I don't love we're just sexy and we're just going to be sexy. And aren't we sexy? Yeah, we're sexy. And that's what NXT is trying to sell right
now. I mean, they literally had a commercial that was just like a up close of a bunch of people's lips. And like,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Like, they even said, like, there was that one episode where they were just like, this episode is all about the women. And I was just like, oh.
So they said it like that, which is okay.
Just like that. I didn't embellish. It was all about the women, like in that very USA Network voice.
Yeah.
And it's just, And I think Tiffany, now Tiffany was on TV 2 weeks ago. Well, last
she was
week,
on TV, in the background,
yeah,
like
she was in the
sitting.
background, sitting down because she, didn't want to be indie and Persia's tag partner because she said, something about her daddy and blah, 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 and she walked off. But yeah, like Lash is, the last time we saw Lash, which again still didn't make any sense to me, was when she was beefing with Tony D'Angelo, and then Tony D'Angelo stole a producer and put him in the back of his trunk. And I was just still like, well, what does this do for Lash? How are we, why are they going to wrestle? They're not going to wrestle. Is her producer a wrestler? He's not a wrestler. So what do we, how? Yeah, so it was just things like that, where again, one of the tenets of the Attitude Era was crash TV. Just throw some stuff against the wall, see what happens, man. And we're going to throw it at you fast, furious, so you don't even have time to think about what you saw, but it happened. Think of a lot of stuff that Val Venus did, very much in that vein. No pun intended. So if, sorry.
Oh, it stays in.
I'm sorry. So if we're just, if we're going to have Lash and we're just going to do the character she's doing, use the very Wendy Williams inspired character. If we're going to do Tiffany and she's the daddy's girl, the rich daddy's girl, the spoiled daddy's girl. Okay. But we can still have them wrestle. And it just seems like you said, the men, and this is always the thing with wrestling. So we're not picking on NXT just for this, but because we can say the same thing in AEW, and we will, that there's a lot of men and you have a lot of women who don't get that same time or that same room to fail or that same room to grow. And that is a problem. So Tiffany and Lash aren't any better or any worse than anyone else they've thrown in the ring during NXT 2.0. Give them a shot, but also do something that makes sense. And I don't think anything they've done so far makes sense for their characters or makes me want to see them wrestle just as a character. Not to say they're bad wrestlers, but I haven't seen anything that makes me say, oh yeah, I want to see you fight for this reason.
So our final question is from one of our editors and former host of a Cageside podcast, Sean.
Does AEW have a social media problem? The big example is Tony Khan's bad tweet about Big Swole, but we've also seen more Kenny Omega, Jim Cornette stuff, and CM Punk going after some fans about pandemic protocols or whatever recently. Do you think that hurts them at all, or does it just appeal to their wrestling Twitter base? And if they should change shit, what should they do about it?
Big Swole. So Tony Khan's issue, and you're a wrestling fan, you know what happened. But I'll reiterate, Tony Khan needs to sometimes just stop tweeting and develop thicker skin. So I don't know if AEW overall has a social media problem. I do believe that Tony needs a thicker skin, or a problem will develop, because it's one thing to say to yourself or to people in your company that, hey, yeah, I let Swole's contract expire because I didn't think she was that good. Okay, fine. It's a private thought. It's another thing to say that publicly, especially after this woman said how she feels as a woman, as a Black woman.
And what her personal experience was.
Yes, her experience in your company that you already acknowledged. You don't, remember the acclaim, the issue with the Acclaimed. We already know Tony doesn't micromanage everything and he doesn't see everything because he wasn't even editing episodes of Dark Elevation at that point, which is how Max Caster's rap got aired. That's how we got there. So to Tony's admission, he's not involved in every single thing day to day. He can't be. He's one person. And he's not Superman. So for Big Swole to say, this is my experience in the company as a Black woman, these are things I saw, these are things I felt, rather than getting defensive, rather than showing your thin skin, say nothing. And then of course to promote Dynamite after you said all the terrible
that
things.
Was nasty.
Not Dynamite, Rampage. I'm sorry. To promote Rampage after that, was even worse. Again, it's just one thing that will get Tony, and again, this isn't just about Big Swole, this is anything, is he is very, very sensitive to criticism. and that can't continue.
I think that a lot of people in AEW specifically are really sensitive to criticism. Speaking as somebody who has complained about their women's division specifically for a long time, and it's come a long way, but there's still a lot of room to grow. But thinking about things that like Brandy would say, she would be like, well, we're doing this and we have our like heels thing and we're, you know, I think AEW specifically, and a lot of the like wrestlers who go on Twitter and stuff, has a problem of like that, like whataboutism type thing. Like two things can exist at the same time. Like you can have several people of color in your employ and also have had somebody in your employ that felt like they were being mistreated because of the color of their skin. Those two things can happen. Like I have a black friend is not an excuse, Tony. Like, I'm sorry. Like that is ridiculous. Like the fact that
even the one he did is like, well, I'm also brown and the other person is brown. It's like,
also, dude, you're like a billionaire. So like,
right.
If I had $1 billion, I simply would not have a Twitter.
Right. Like, the whole thing was weird.
Yeah. And I feel like I think you see a lot in AEW wrestling specifically, but you see it a lot in the world, but in wrestling in general, on social media, everybody is so defensive. And especially because AEW is still a young company, they don't know how to handle criticism, but B, feel like they have to like constantly defend themselves, right? Like, no, we're doing this, this, and this though. And it's like, yeah, I know you're doing that, but like criticism isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially constructive criticism or, you know, somebody or media criticism. Like a lot of people who write about wrestling or about media properties, like really do know what they're talking about. I mean, this is like a larger philosophical question, right? We have a problem, I think, with viewing critics in this really negative light instead of just thinking about it with all of our brain, with both halves of our brain, right? Like criticism can be used to make your product better, or you can look at it and be like, I disagree with that, and then move on with your day, have a bagel, drink some coffee, like you just get over it.
Be a billionaire.
Be a billionaire.
Just be
a billionaire. And then like the CM Punk thing, like I don't know, CM Punk always like gets in fights with people, so that feels like normal.
Yeah, that's on brand for him. Like that's on brand. Punk is always starting to fight with somebody that doesn't.
And Cornette's always going to run his mouth, but like specifically for like TK, like, dude, you are the head of this company. You are a billionaire. If this person truly didn't matter to you, then why are you thinking about it? If she didn't make points that made you feel bad about yourself, and then why are you thinking about it? To me, that just reinforced that some of that the things she said resonated with him, and then he felt bad and had to like hit back.
It's projection.
Yeah,
the entire thing was projection. I agree. It reeked of projection. But
maybe billionaires should not control their Twitter accounts. They should hand it to a PR person.
Where are their PR people?
Where are their PR people?
You can't do that. And with Tony, it's going to be the dude. Sometimes it's okay to just not say anything. You don't always have to defend yourself. You don't always have to be sensitive to criticism. You don't always have to end up putting your foot in your mouth and swallowing it.
Shockingly, though, I don't think that billionaires are told no a lot. So I don't think he understands that.
Yeah. I mean, look, if my dad owned a football team and, you know, all I knew was being rich my entire life, maybe I'd be in the same position, but I'm not, you know, and Tony has to realize that like the thing that makes Tony cool and makes him fun is also the same thing that's going to potentially be his undoing. What makes Tony cool and fun is his accessibility and the fact that he's open. What's going to hurt Tony is his accessibility and the fact that he's open. It's like, dude, you got to find he has to find that medium. And
I push back on you saying he's fun and cool, but like you do you.
Fun and cool in the sense of it makes AEW fun and cool. It's the openness and the accessibility. I mean, because you're right, because but I immediately regretted when I said it. what makes AEW
No
fun
simping
and
for Tony
cool.
Khan on this podcast.
No, what makes AEW fun and cool is their openness and just they're open. Like they interact with the fans much more than than WWE will, because WWE is a publicly traded company. But AEW as a whole, to answer Sean's question, really needs to just shut up sometimes. It's
Need
okay.
some PR training. That's
yes.
all. Everybody
the Cena media training.
Need some PR training.
John Cena should teach a class.
I take that class.
He's a part of Warner just like they are. Go to AEW, teach them media training, and just have them all doing it the John Cena way. Everybody wins.
Before we wrap up, we're going to just do a quick lightning round just to hit on a couple things we want to talk about, because this is getting out of control. Our podcast in the future will be a little bit shorter, but we had to up top tell you why we're so important.
Well, of course. And, there's nothing better than just hearing two people talk to you about themselves and why they're great.
No, they needed to know why Kane is the best.
Well, true. And you needed to get hate mail. So yeah, it's going to happen. So we're going to do a lightning round where Stella's going to say two things that that we didn't get to talk about. I'm going to say two things we didn't get to talk about. It's not going to be long. Just going to mention them, say, hey, this was cool. This is why. And we're done. Lightning. Boom. It's going to be that quick. So Stella, do the honors.
The two things in my lightning round are the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. It ruled. It was really good. Top to bottom. All of the matches were worth watching. It was really fun. Impact exists in this part a big company, part an indie. The fans are really loyal. Impact is worth watching. That's my number one. What's your number one lightning round?
My number one is Eddie Kingston, because Eddie Kingston brings an energy to AEW that they're missing without Mox. And they just don't have. Like, he brings that. Like, I actually got to man Twitter in your absence. Yeah,
that was you?
Yeah, that was me.
You did a good job. I was mad that you did a good job. I was like, oh no.
Thank you.
They're gonna fire me.
No. I look, man, I was just trying not to mess up and like, yo, Stella's dope. I gotta try to do something. So the one thing I tweeted was that Eddie Kingston, even while sitting there watching that match, doing nothing but watching, is DMX energy. That's all. And it's just, I
should have known it was you. I was like, this is a weird pull for Sean.
but he just exudes this rawness and this. It's just like, we know wrestling is, we know, look, people, we know pro wrestling. We get it. It's real, but it's not real. When Eddie's on TV, though,
feels real.
It always feels real. And that is just something that neither company has without him. Love Eddie Kingston. Second thing, your turn.
Britt Baker joining with Adam Cole. They're going to do a mixed tag next week. They had hinted once Adam Cole joined AEW, they had hinted, like, we all know they're together in real life. Don't talk about Britt Baker that way, blah, blah, blah. They joined together. They're going to do a mixed tag. I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't, because Britt Baker is a pillar of AEW. She is the champion. And there's something about it that is really worrisome to me, that her teaming with the men feels like it diminishes her a little bit and puts her second fiddle. And I'm really worried about that. It's not that yet. Like, she, came in and kicked butt and cut a promo and was great. And, they're a real life couple. I obviously stand real life couples in wrestling. We just talked about Miz and Maurice and Edge and Beth. But I'm just nervous about it. I'm excited, but I'm nervous about it because I just have this fear that Britt Baker will be overshadowed by all of the craziness of Red Dragon and the Elite and the Young Bucks and their weird shoes. Like, I'm worried about it. So I'm tentative on all of that, though they are super cute and I do love them.
Super cute, super click.
Yeah, super cute, super click.
Inception, the group inside the group.
The group inside the group, I think the thing that worried me the most is that she didn't have her belt with her, and that stressed me out. I think if she had her belt, especially in the backstage promo, like, it stressed me out that she didn't have her belt. And I was like, she's the champion. Where the F is her belt? That stressed me out a lot. What is your second thing that you would like to talk about?
It's funny you mentioned champions in women wrestling, in AEW specifically. Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida, once again, in another match. I love this feud. It's my favorite feud in AEW. And and it's really just because they just really seem like they hate each other. Like,
yeah, it's believable.
Right. It is palpable hate. And it's not over anything other than I believe I am better than you. That's it. It's not about I want an opportunity to title. It's not about you stole an opportunity from me. It's I believe I am better than you. And I wonder how long AEW can keep both of these women, specifically Serena Deeb, away from Britt Baker and away from that title, because what they're doing on the low is really building a compelling story between these two women who believe they are the best in AEW. Serena Deeb even had an interview with JR where, she asked JR, what woman do you think is better than me right now in this company? JR said, I can't think of any. JR said, so that's the company is saying, we don't think anyone's better than Serena Deeb. At what point do you put Serena Deeb against Britt Baker, and how does that work?
Yeah. Smart way to keep Sheeta out of the title picture too. Sheeta had the belt for a really long time. This is a smart way to keep her busy.
Right. And Serena's a buzzsaw. And, so to your point about Britt being with Adam, and of course, Britt's got her own thing with Jamie Hayter and Rebel. That's a lot of distractions, man. And Serena Deeb is just focused. She is focused right now, and she wants everything. She believes she's the best. I love this story. I love that their match, which is probably their third or fourth match now, was barely a match because Sheeta was injured from the last match they had. And Serena said, all right, cool, I'm gonna go to work on this knee. And she almost tore it off. Then she beat her with a kendo stick to just say, I'm not done with her. Like, I love that, where it doesn't fit, it feels like real people, real emotions. I truly feel like I'm better than this person, and I want to rub it in their face. And I don't like it's almost like she didn't like the fact that she tapped, almost as if that was an insult to her, that this match wasn't even over yet and you gave up. How dare you? And I love it. And I'm ready for them to keep fighting for the rest of their lives.
That's a fight forever feud right there.
Most definitely.
So that's it for this week. So don't stress. We'll be back next week with more hot takes for the dunk tank.
And if you'd like to be on the podcast, make sure to send your recorded questions and comments to CagesideSocials@gmail.com, and you might be featured on next week's episode.
If you want to follow us on Twitter, I'm at Stella_Cheeks.
And I am at Abstract Poetic, a 3 with that E supposed to be.
And of course, you can find more wrestling coverage at Cageside Tweets on Twitter and Instagram, and at CagesideSeats.com.
And if we missed something you desperately wanted to talk about, head over to CagesideSocials.com, chat with us in the comments of this episode post. We'll interact. We'll chat back. We got you.
Please tell me why you think Kane is the best.
Please tell her why you think Kane is the best. Yes.
Come on that hill with me.
I was going to call them Canaanites, but that's actually a biblical thing already. So we can't do that. But we need another word for Kane fandom. Yes.
We'll think about it. We'll brainstorm. We'll get there next time.
Yep.
Until next time, Cagesiders.
The tapes are always rolling.